Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
You can't handle the truth.
December 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
I will build a great, great wall.
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Welcome to Life Uncensored, the podcast that brings you sports, current events, politics, culture, life experiences, and more. Plus special guests with every new episode. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. And now, your host, Dan Sturgill.
Welcome to episode 1 of Life Uncensored. I'm your host, Dan Sturgill, and today we're joined by Scotty Rhoden, Sheriff of Baker County in northern Florida, just outside of Jacksonville. Sheriff Rhoden comes to us today, and just to give you a brief bio of this wonderful Sheriff of Baker County. He is a 1990 graduate of Baker County High School. He attended Lake City Community College Law Enforcement Academy. He's a graduate of the Florida Sheriff's Institute Commanders Academy and DEA Advanced Narcotics Investigator School. Interesting career, and we're shortening it a little bit so that we can just get into some great talk. Sheriff Rhoden began working at the Baker County Sheriff's Office as a correction officer in 1992. From 92 to 97, he served as deputy sheriff. 97 to 2002, he served as patrol sergeant. 2002 to 2009, he served as narcotics investigator. 2009 to 2016, he was a patrol lieutenant, and then was elected sheriff of Baker County in 2016, re-elected in 2020. He has numerous awards that he has received in his law enforcement career, very distinguished career. Life-saving award during traffic crash, the Joseph Burtner Award, certification of appreciation from the DEA, Florida Narcotic Region 2 Officer of the Year, Special Investigations Unit 8th Circuit Officer of the Year, and the Morris Fish Award. Sheriff Rhoden, welcome to Life Uncensored.
Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
We're doing good. Glad to be here.
So this is episode 1, and I couldn't think of a better man to bring on. We just read a lot about what your education, your experience, and we're going to get into all of that. I found out some interesting things when I kind of was reading about you. I didn't know that your brother works at the sheriff's office. I think that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Didn't know about your father being the police chief of McClenny.
Yes, sir.
So when we say you are born and bred in Baker County, you were born and bred in Baker County. So let's start all the way back at the beginning, and let's work our way through. This is Life Uncensored, unscripted. We don't have any plan other than just want to talk about the life of Scotty Rhoden. Also mentioning, of course, that you're married to Tara. I believe you're coming up on your 30-year anniversary.
25th this year, 25th. Yes.
Congratulations. You have 3 children, and you have been busy working on a re-election campaign.
Yes.
And we wish you nothing but the best. That is coming up on August the 20th. So let's start with Scotty's story in the beginning. You don't need to tell us the year you were born or the day, but what month, and tell us a little bit about your growing up. Who is Scotty Rhoden all the way back at the beginning?
Well, I was born in February. I'm a February baby, and I just grew up in a law enforcement family. My dad was a chief of police in McClenny for many, many years, and I was young back then whenever he was the chief, and I just remember growing up being around in the police station, around the fire department. All that was intermingled back in the city. It was where the city hall is now, where the police station was, and right across the street was the fire department. And I can't remember all the integral details of how it worked. I just remember being in in the police station, and it was associated with the fire station, and everybody kind of had their own job, and everybody worked together whenever emergencies happened. I remember going on fire calls with them. I remember being there when stuff happened.
And how old were you when you were doing that?
I was young at that point. I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old. You know.
So you're hanging out at I guess it's a combination fire department and police department. Mm-hmm. Normal kids are out on the playground, right?
Yeah.
Your buddy's probably out on the playground riding bikes. So what drew you to that? I mean, is this about your affection for first responder thing, or is this a dad? You just love being around your dad, or what was it?
I still did the playgrounds and the kids and the neighborhoods and stuff. Back then you could actually be a kid and run out. You woke up that morning, you went and played, and you didn't have to check in and all. You stayed out till dark, man. If you stayed out till dark, you better have a good excuse. You know what I mean? But that was back when kids stayed out and they did play. We drank from the water spigot. We didn't go get a cold pop. We drank out of the water hose. So
did a lot of that.
So I had that growing up also, but I do remember times being over there in the police station. It was just things that resonated with me. This is something that I had a passion for at a young age, to be honest with you. The thing I remember most about my dad is there was a building that came in. It's the old McClenny Products right now. It used to be the GE building. And he patrolled that at night, like an extra duty type thing. And he would take me with him. I would go with him. And those were times, and I can't get in trouble now, so he used to let me I used to get to sit in his lap or either drive the patrol car around, because it was just a circle that you made.
Right.
And he was just responsible for going and checking the doors and make sure the doors were locked, make sure nobody had broken into anything. I think he was using me probably where he didn't have to get out and run up to every door. So I was kind of being used in one way, but it was something that I loved. So
And how old were you when that was going on?
Probably 10 years old, maybe. I mean, it was late 70s, early 80s. So it was.
Yeah.
I was still young. I was little enough to sit in his lap and drive while he did the gas. And sometimes, if I did just right, I could sit on the edge and do the gas and the brake myself. Right. So I was still young. So that's where I really began to get a passion for it. And to go back to a story that I'll never forget. It was something that I wanted to do, but it almost ended my police career at an early age also, because I won't never forget, we were doing what we do every night. When I'd run and check the doors, and I got so used to when I grabbed the doorknob, it would be locked and it would be secured, and it just became normal, became a habit. I got out there one night and I run up there to the door and I grabbed the doorknob and the door came open. and as a young child, I was like, "Uh-oh, that ain't supposed to happen." Hey, so I did the flee or fight, and I fled. I fled back to my dad and said, "Hey, the door's open. You need to come do what you're supposed to be doing now." But I won't ever forget that. So I kind of said, that it's almost like you're doing something every day and it's supposed to be normal, then that the thing that happens that you're not expecting, and you have to kick into that gear in law enforcement. I mean, and I remember that as a young child, that I didn't stand and fight. I did flee back to the person I knew that could take care of it, which was my dad, because he was the police officer. He was the person that was there to.
But you're at this stage, you're like 8 or 10 years.
Yeah, I'm young at this point. I didn't.
The Sheriff Rhoden of today ain't turning.
No, we're not turning it around. We're going forward.
Right, straight through the door.
That's what I said. I said, that one incident almost ended my law enforcement career. I didn't know if I had the right mindset or not.
So I'm kind of fascinated by that, because if you look at kids that are growing up generally, they a lot of boys in particular idolize their dad. So it is whatever their dad is or does, it's like that they're instantly drawn to that. Or if they have a bad relationship with their father, whatever he does, they're repelled from. Like they don't want nothing to do with what he's doing. So talk to us about your dad and your relationship with your mom and your dad growing up. What was that like? 'Cause it had to be kind of cool. Your dad obviously had a good relationship with you to be bringing you out to work like that. So how was that, being the son of a chief of police?
We had a good relationship. I come from a separated family. My mom and dad was divorced when I was very young. I don't remember my dad living in the house with me. That's because they were divorced at that time. So I did spend time with him. I stayed mostly with my mom. My mom was a hard worker. She worked very hard. She worked 2 jobs. I can remember her. She worked at the state hospital, and then she worked at Winn-Dixie as a cashier. And my mom worked very hard to support me and my brother and sister. But I had a good relationship with my dad also. I spent time with him when I could. Yeah. And being in law enforcement like that, it's kind of difficult because you never know what you're going to be in situations. And
especially in an administrative role.
Right.
Like police chief, yeah.
So I come from a good family, a good background, but it was a separated family. And there was difficult times, just like anybody other families have. They have difficult times, but we made it through it. We stuck together. And but there's nothing I regret about my childhood. I had a great childhood. I have a very loving mother. My dad passed away a few years ago, and I love my dad very much also. Sure. And I still miss him. And during these times right now, during the elections and stuff that's going on, you know, I really wish that he was here to be able to see some of the things that we're going through and some of the things that we have done in the community as being sheriff. Because my grandfather, which was Dallas Rhoden, he actually run for sheriff. I can't remember the year of that, Dan, and I meant to look that up, but my dad also ran for sheriff. Really? They were both unsuccessful. Wow. So I ran for sheriff in 2016, and I was successful. So I always joke about it. I said, I guess the third time was the charm for the Rhodens. So yeah, I really miss those times, being able to spend. He enjoyed politics. Yeah. He loved to get involved, and I miss him for that. And I was talking to my aunt the other day, and she mentioned him. Said, I wish your dad was still here to be able to see what you're doing. And and I do too.
So where do you think you get law enforcement's one thing, being an investigator, road sergeant, patrol, corrections. That's one side of law enforcement. The side that you're on now is logistics, administration, and like leading. Where do you get that from? Does that come from your mom, from your dad, or a combination?
I think it comes from a combination. Probably my mom more, to be honest with you. My dad was a good leader when he come. I get to be able to help people from my dad. My dad had a passion to help people. Yeah. And I remember that, watching him in certain things. I was still young. I didn't understand a lot of it, but I knew that he had that reaching out hand to help people.
And cared.
And cared about people. And I hear stories from people in the community that remind me of, hey, your dad years ago helped so-and-so or did this. And wow. I'm talking about older people, and they always say, man, you look just like your daddy. You look just, I said, well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I think anyway. I think so, yeah. But I remember him being able, and I've always said, I want to be that person that can lead, but I also want to be that person that can help. That's my passion, is to help people.
Yeah. So then going back to, say, 8-10 years old, and then as you start progressing, you start hitting your teenage years. Mm-hmm. So now as you're hitting your teenage years, your mother never remarried, so or did she?
She remarried.
So you had a stepfather that you had to deal with, mm-hmm. And that was as smooth as I'm sure that could be.
Yes, it has its bumps in the road, and. But we all got along. And
did your father also remarry?
Yes, he did.
So you were dealing with all of this, mm-hmm. Now into your teenage years. Anything other than law enforcement you enjoyed? What did you do? What was your go-to thing as a teenager that you enjoyed?
I was real involved in sports. I love sports. Football was my favorite. I played football and baseball. I enjoyed that. I played Little League on up to high school. Very active in the Little League and stuff, and enjoyed sports. That was my go-to thing.
So when did you play in football? What position did you play?
I played outside linebacker. And I played a little bit of running back. I had a little speed to me now, Dan. Don't.
Well, I can see the aggression being the linebacker. I can see that. That fits. Running back. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. And how good were you?
I was a decent football player. I wish there was things that I really wish that I would have put more work into. I think I could have went somewhere and probably played at a small college, but looking back on it, I didn't put the work in that was necessary to do that, to advance. I loved it and I had the passion for it, but I didn't put the work into it.
Same. That's my story.
Mm-hmm.
I played tight end, so you would have been my assignment, by the way.
That's right.
How funny is that? So in baseball, what position did you play?
I played catcher and I played third base and I did a little pitching. So
nice. So a catcher, obviously, for those of you that are into sports, a catcher is primarily the coach on the field.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense that would be a position you'd be playing. Linebacker is like quarterback of the defense, so it would make sense you would choose that position. Mm-hmm. That's what leaders do. Leaders just kind of lead, whether they really feel it or not. It just comes out of them because that's who they are. So you come through middle school, you come through high school, you graduate in 1990, you played baseball, you played football.
Played a little basketball too in the middle school and high school, JV.
Love it.
Yeah, played a little basketball too.
And so that kept you busy.
Yeah, we did. We stayed busy.
And then you come into your graduating and you're thinking, what? What is Scotty Rhoden thinking as an 18-year-old getting ready to graduate? Like, were you thinking career? You thinking, let me get through this summer? You thinking college? Like, what was going through your mind when you're heading out of high school?
Well, to go back just a little bit, whenever I was in elementary and place all that, I always said I would be the sheriff. That's what my classmates always said. They said, you told me one day you was going to be the sheriff. But back then, as a young kid, Dad's a police chief. You love law enforcement. Love being there. Hey, I'm gonna be the sheriff. Everybody wants to be the sheriff for some reason. But once I graduated, I knew then I was probably going to hit the workforce. I didn't foresee college going off anywhere. Again, I would have loved to went off and probably played sports in some way. But again, that's my own fault. I take full responsibility for that because I didn't put the time and the effort in it to be able to expand that and move forward. And
yeah, but have you ever thought about? Here we are now, and you're in your 50s, and looking back, how much different would life be if you would have gone off to college, and if you would have been, say you did put in the work, or you got whatever going on, and you get this opportunity to play wherever, somewhere else. Does that mean that you're not in Baker County tonight or today? Does that mean that you don't beat Tara? Does that mean you're not in law enforcement? And then look at how all of that, how much that changes everything. I think about stuff like that all the time. I don't know if maybe I'm just weird, but how weird it is that, and you didn't foresee 30 years out. You were just thinking right here, but man, how different would life be for so many people?
That's right.
If you would have gone off and maybe never returned.
I think that even if I would have went off, you're right, things could have been totally different as far as the way my life's turned out now. I foresee myself always coming back to Baker County. I don't think that I would have ever left Baker County. This has been my home since a young boy, and I'm not going anywhere. I would not say that I would never come back. If my path would have been different to a school or play ball or do something, I would have always seen me coming back. I would foresee me in some type of law enforcement position because I did have the passion to still do it. But when I got out of school and graduated, I went straight to I went to work at the prison is where I went that was my first job. But I worked during school. I was always, we were taught to work hard. I worked at Winn-Dixie. I worked at the Chevron station. I pumped gas, changed oil. 16 years old. That was when you did the full service. You walked up to the people, how much gas you like.
Right.
You know? Give me $20 and check everything. That's the oil, the washer fluid, the tire pressure, and all that. So we did all that, and I worked. I've had a job ever since I was able to go to work, and
wow.
I'm not scared of work. I just grew up that way.
Yeah.
And but once I did graduated, I went to seek a job at the prison. I worked at Union Correctional Institute for a year. I did my commitment of a year. I went and got my certification there for corrections. After I completed that, I knew that that was not the career I wanted to stay in. Law enforcement, being a deputy sheriff in Baker County, is where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So
what was that experience like, working corrections in a prison?
It's a different environment for people that's never been into it. When you walk in there and you hear the gate close behind you, and you're in there and you're locked in there with people that are committed. But you go in there and you got a job to do, and I took it. They're human beings. They're people that have made mistakes. They're locked up.
Yeah.
And you treat them how you want to be. I never had problems in there. I always gave them the respect that they deserve, and I never had problems. I got along with the people in there. I got along with the people I worked with. Never had issues. But I just knew that wasn't my passion. I knew that was my starting ground.
Right.
Is what I seen it as, and they paid for my schooling to go to it, and you had to get that commitment. I didn't have the funding to go to do that, so you know. What was my best starting point was that. So that's where I went to.
Love it. Mm-hmm. So they paid for your college or your training to go through corrections, but obviously for those of you listening who don't understand, correction training and law enforcement training is two
totally
different academies.
Yes.
But they still require academies, and they still require work, and they still require training, and all of them to be respected for sure. Mm-hmm. So you get through that year, and then you decide, I think I want to go through Police Academy.
Yes.
So what was that like for you? How long was the academy back then when you went through?
I forget the hours. It was 400 and something hours, I believe, of the crossover, and then there were certain hours of the corrections academy.
Oh, because you already had corrections.
I had corrections, so basically I did the crossover academy here in Olust at the Lake City College, and I went through that while I was still working at the prison. I went at night. And
so you did the they call that the part-time one? Or,
yes.
So it's like Monday to Thursday?
6 to 10. I mean, is usually what the time at night. So you worked.
You were going in the morning, leaving work and going right to the academy.
Yes.
So I presume Tara's not in the picture at this point.
No, she's not in the picture at this
time.
time.
You got all the time you need.
I was 19 years old then. So
wow, you went to the police academy at
19, 20 years old, yes.
Wow. And so what was your first day at police academy? Like, what were you thinking? Man, this is great, or what am I doing?
No, I enjoyed it. I really did. And we had other people in there that was from Baker County that went, so you knew people, and we got along with people there. So it was just, I knew that I had a mission, and that was to be in law enforcement, and this was a step that I had to take to get to that next mission that I had, and that was being in law. So it had to be done. It wasn't something that's handed to you. You got to go in there and you got to complete it, and you got to grind to get it done, and that's what we done.
So 6 to 10, Monday to Thursday. Then of course there's some weekends you had to do
some weekends,
shooting, driving, schools, that kind of thing. So then you graduate, and you're out of police academy. And you apply at Baker County Sheriff's Office.
That's an interesting story too, the application process for the Sheriff's Office. And go back to what I said earlier, my dad had ran for sheriff against the sheriff that was currently there that actually hired me. And
I didn't know that either.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's a very interesting story. So small town, politics are politics, and you know, politics gets ugly sometimes. So people would tell me, say, hey, this man's never going to hire you. Your dad ran against him, and there's bad blood. Well, come to find out, my dad and the sheriff that hired me, which was Joe Newman's, they were very good friends at one time, very good friends. And so I kept getting told by different people, hey, you're never going to get hired here. He's never going to do this for you. He's not going to do that. So as a young man, I went up there and made an appointment to see him and talked to his secretary, and she walked in his office and said, somebody's here to see you. And I walked in, and he had a couch right there. He sat behind the desk with the big chair, and I was nervous as a young teenager. I said, Sheriff, I said, I'm just here to ask you a question. I said, I've been told by people that you would never consider hiring me because of the relationship with my dad and you and him running in politics. I said, I would like to know if that's true or not, and would I be given an opportunity? And he looked at me and he said, son, you go get what you need, and I guarantee you'll have an opportunity here. That will never be held against you.
Wow.
And I took him at that. And I went and completed everything. I went and done what I was supposed to do. And he told me to come back and see him as soon as I was completed with the crossover. And I did. And I was hired at the Baker County Sheriff's Office as a corrections. I told him I didn't want any special treatment. I want to be done just like anybody else. I want to start where I'm supposed to start and end up where I'm supposed to end up. Yeah. And I started in the corrections back there in the jail. In 92, he gave me an opportunity. Wow. And then I became, they called it the posse back then. We call it auxiliary, but it was called the posse back then. So once I was certified and I was able to get on the posse, I was probably one of the youngest members of the posse to ever got. Well, then that gave me opportunity to get out and ride with people and ride in the cars and be in the deputy. So I would work my shift and then I would go ride. Right. So I was seeing things starting to progress to get to where I wanted to be at.
And you're starting off at a prison, and then you go through the academy, and then you're in the jail. And there's a big difference between working in the jail and working in the prison.
That's right.
The type of people that you have and regulations and rules and all that kind of stuff is a little bit different. But then you're going out after work and riding with these deputies. So when does Tara enter your story?
That's still a few years.
So that's why you've got all this time.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of going through, climbing your ladder, doing your thing.
That's right.
And how were the guys that you rode with? Because on my mind, I'm thinking, here are some deputies. They don't know what you're going to become, right? And maybe they have been working 10 years, 15 years, sergeants, lieutenants, whatever. And they look at this young kid fresh out of law enforcement training and coming out of corrections and probably thinking, this dude ought to be thanking me that I'm taking him out. And now, 30 years later, you're in charge of this whole show.
Yeah.
So when you say you know all about this thing, you know all about this thing. I mean, you starting in the jail, and then you start climbing. So now you're transitioning and you're doing some posse work. When do you actually get the opportunity to go in and be an actual road deputy? How long did that take?
That took me probably around 6 months, I think, is where it was. Probably around 6 months. In 92, I got a job, I got hired and became a deputy.
So what was it like on the training curve, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, depending on the agency once you get out on the road? But what was it like the first time you rode by yourself?
Back then, you were excited, but you were nervous.
Yeah.
And we had good people, and people were glad to see other people come to work. I mean, when I rode with people, they were acceptant and trained me. I had a good friend. I rode a lot with a good friend, still a good friend of me today is Brian McDuffie. I rode with him a lot, taught me a lot. So really and truthfully, it's when I began back in my career, it's not like it was. There's no FTO program. There's no field training officer there. You kind of go into it and
good luck.
Here's your keys. Good luck. Let your schooling but you could call them. They would come to you. It wasn't like they left you out there on an island by yourself.
Right.
I remember my first wreck. It was in a parking lot wreck. It was a simple wreck backing into one another, but you're nervous. You really want to make sure you do everything right. You want to make sure. I remember having to call them and say, hey, I need somebody to meet me over here and make sure I'm doing this right. You get that confidence. You want the confidence, and your first call, you do not want that to go wrong.
Right.
So come over there, and they helped me, and it's been a good ride with me here at the Baker County Sheriff's Office. I could tell you that.
So you start, now I'm starting to visualize in my head this progression on your timeline, and all the people that have invested into you professionally and personally. So instructors through the academy,
yes,
people at the jail, people at the prison, people in the posse. So you're picking up all of these things of how you're supposed to do law enforcement.
That's right.
And you're learning what to look at, what to watch for, how to be safe, and that's before they had these FTO training times. Where what is the training time now at our sheriff's office? So if someone gets hired, they go out. Is it like 8 weeks or 10?
Yeah,
weeks or something like that.
It goes in different phases, and it's according to how you're progressing through each phase. The timetable is how it goes. So there's different phases.
And when you started, it was just here's your keys, don't wreck the car.
Here's your keys, and good luck.
Yeah. So you learn, and so that means we had to have some really good deputies.
We had great deputies back then.
Anyone that's coming in new, right? The new hires, so they would just kind of absorb and be like, "Hey, don't do this, or make sure you do that." And that's a small town thing. One of the bedrocks of a small town.
That's right.
Is that people actually care.
That's right. And you knew everybody back then. You knew who you were dealing with. You knew where. We had 3 deputies. We had 2 deputies and a supervisor. So we had 3 zones. You had Zone 1, which is a city that we were required to stay in there all the time. I had to have a deputy in there 24/7. And then you had a supervisor that worked Zone 2, which would consider Glenn and the area, and then Zone 3, which was Old Lusty, Sanderson, Baxter, and different outside. So there's 3 people that controlled the whole county, and those were times that got a little hairy because really and truthfully, because of the sergeant at that time, he was really the backup to go to Zone 1 or Zone 2. So if you had a bad call in the city, Zone 2 man, which was a sergeant, would come in and basically be your backup. Well, when he was here in the city, the man in Zone 3, which is further out, Taylor, Old Lusty, Baxter, and that, he had a while to wait for if something bad happened to there, you know. And there was incidents where that does happen, and
well, there was a story. I worked as a chaplain in the sheriff's office in Ohio, and one of the first guys that I was riding with, we were talking, and it's a big county like Baker, but not overly populated.
Right,
it's just a lot of rural area. And he told a story about a cop. A deputy had gone to a domestic call. It was way out in the middle of nowhere, and some of those places radios don't work.
Yes.
Right.
Same here.
Come in and go.
Same here.
Come in and out. He shows up, and he was a smaller deputy, and he goes to this domestic call. There's a big dude, and he pulls up, and the guy comes out, and he's like, "Backup ain't gonna be here for a while." This is what the guy is saying to the deputy. You ain't got backup coming, and your radio ain't working. And he says, this deputy was like, what did I just walk into? Right? So when we talk about that kind of stuff, I mean, I get it. I understand the spread out nature of law enforcement, and people need to understand our deputies that are out there now. And we have a lot of deputies. I'm aware of that, but not as much as we need.
That's right.
We have more for those reasons.
Yes.
You want 2 or 3 guys being able to be at a place within a couple of minutes. If it's a domestic, especially something like that, those are the most volatile.
That's right.
So back in your day, though, you could be waiting 10 minutes. 15 minutes. 10,
15, 20 minutes at something. It's according to where you were at in the county. I mean, if you're coming from the city and you're going all the way to Old Lusty or Baxter, you're a good 15, 20 minutes for somebody to come to you.
Wow. So that's confidence, though. You were talking about that earlier. The longer you do it, the more confident you become, and then you're like, okay, these are chances I can't take. These are, maybe I'm gonna pay attention to where my backup's at before I get into those. Are the things that you learn as you go.
And there's some situations that you just can't wait. I mean, there's situations that you just have to buckle up, and you got to go in there and you got to do your job. And our job is to make sure that everyone is protected and everybody's safe. And you put yourself in risk and danger to do that. And but you know that before you pin the badge on and go to work that day. There's something. That's the one thing about this job. You never know what you're going to encounter on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely you don't. Because it's not like a normal office job, 9-to-5 job. It's not like a factory job. You kind of have an idea what's going on. You could go from nothing for 10 hours and then have a violent brawl break out, and you're the first one to respond and break this thing up. Yeah, that is crazy. It's a whole different mindset.
It's a whole different mindset. It's back then, and I can relate to one that really sticks out to my mind is there was a place in Sanderson. It was called the Juke, and on the weekends they had a lot of people. A lot of people would gather from out of county, and there was a fight that was broke out there, and I was happened to be the Zone 3 man that night, and
lucky you.
So the dispatch you go to it. Well, when you get there, it's a much bigger crowd than usually one weekend would be. So it was different people, but they were fighting, and backup was coming from Glenn, McClenny, wherever it might be, but you just have to go in there and do your job. And when I pulled in there, they were fighting. I mean, they were aggressively getting, and you just get out of your car and you go up to them and you just start doing your job. Right. And I think people respect you because, one, it goes back to what I said. I've always been the way of respect. I treat people how you should be treated. Yeah. If they put us in a situation where you needed to go to jail, they go to jail.
Right.
If we could help them, we help them, you know. And I think people, back then, it goes back to what I said earlier, we knew a lot of people we were dealing with. So we were dealing with certain people that knew us and grew up, and they just knew that we were not going to be over aggressive with them, but we had a job to do. Right. And but when I pulled up there, don't get me wrong, you take that big swallow and you get out and you go do your job, because it's scary. Yeah. But you can't allow the fear to come over you, because then you'll be hurt or somebody else will be hurt. Right. And you got a job to do. And they know somebody's coming. They just don't know how long it's going to take them to get there. But, you know, when we get there, we handle business.
And you do what you got to do.
That's right.
And so in the process of doing that, you do this for, 5 years? You're deputy, and then you become a sergeant.
Then I become a sergeant.
How did that happen? Like, what was the process? It's just testing?
And then we just went through the process, and I was elected to be that person and became the supervisor, and, you know,
which speaks to your organization, right? Mm-hmm. It's your ability to organize guys, to communicate, and to be able to, lead a unit of guys. You have to have the skill set, the mind. It's a different mindset. So they obviously noticed this in you. So when did they come to you and be like, hey, I think we want you to take the next step?
There was positions that came open, and then we were chosen to do that, and I was grateful for the opportunity, and I did that for a few years. I knew it. I wanted to be a detective during that process, right. And I've always had a passion for the narcotic side of it. I would have went into any of it to get to that field to where I wanted to be at, the burglary detective or anything like that. But I knew the narcotics is where I wanted to be.
And why is that?
Because I really feel that you make a difference in a community such as Baker County when it comes to that. If you go back and look at everything, and that's my mind was going back, and everything we were dealing with on the law enforcement side, whether it be patrol, whether it be the sergeant, whatever I was at that time, if you really track that back, most of the disturbances, the thefts and all came from some type of addiction from drugs or alcohol related incidents. Right. So I've always said, if you can reduce that down, then your crime should be reducing.
Sure.
And how do you make a difference in that? You get in there and you roll your sleeves up and you go after the people that are bringing that stuff into our community, and you arrest them, but you also get them the help that they need also.
Yeah, yeah. So you go from being the sergeant to the narcotics investigator,
Mm-hmm.
and then from that to a patrol lieutenant. So what was the difference in that job? To be the lieutenant versus being the sergeant, and the difference, obviously the investigator part's different, but to become a lieutenant means, I'm assuming, more responsibility.
More responsibility. You're over two shifts, two sides, and making sure that everything's done and appropriately, and things are getting taken care of as on both shifts instead of just one. As a sergeant, you're over like one shift. As a lieutenant, I was over two shifts at that time on that particular rotation side.
Anybody who messed up, it's your responsibility
Yes.
to resolve it. And
Yes.
Ultimately, you're held responsible because you're the boss.
That's right.
On that line.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you think when you climbed? Because it's always fascinating to me when people climb in their career field and they keep getting elevated in responsibility. What it's like to move from being, I'm just working corrections, to now I'm a deputy. So that's a step up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I'm a deputy and I'm just working, punching my clock, so to speak, and now I'm a sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can't just be like everybody else. Now I'm leading. Now I'm not doing patrol sergeant. Now I'm running a narcotics unit. So, that's different. It's a smaller group of guys that are going, it's like the SEAL team,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going after the Bin Ladens in the drug world, right?
Right.
And then they say, hey, you're doing great at that, but let's move you back over here to the lieutenant, because obviously they saw in you the ability to lead and administrate, as well as, obviously, because of the awards that I read when we started the episode, you obviously been rewarded for hard work, Officer of the Year twice,
Mm-hmm.
two different categories, but still Officer of the Year twice. And before I forget, that life-saving award during a traffic crash, when did that happen? Is that back as a patrol guy, or as the sergeant, or as a lieutenant, and what is that story?
I was a lieutenant then. There was a bad accident on 121 at South Boulevard. This individual, somebody pulled out and they T-boned him, and the vehicle that he was in was on fire at that time. And the separation from where the accident happened, they actually hit, and then the other car went a ways down. When I got to the scene, I ran down to where the truck was in the middle of the road, where the car was on fire, and smoke was coming out of it. And at that point in time, I just went in there. He couldn't get himself out of the car. I remember the smoke boiling out and him hollering help, and I just reached into the car and I pulled him out and drug him to the sidewalk, and the car was totally engulfed at that time.
So how badly was he injured?
He was hurt. I don't particularly know what the medical condition was at that point.
Burn, did he suffer?
I don't think any burned him. Smoke. We got him out in time before any burns, but it was. I remember the black smoke rolling out of there.
Oh yeah.
And the heat coming from it.
So and that happened when you were a lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sometime in 2000, early 2010,
Right.
or 16 is when you did that. So in your career, because then you go to 2016 and you get elected sheriff. But before we get to the elected sheriff part, what was because I'm sure the answer is going to be different since you've been sheriff, what you've seen, but prior to becoming sheriff, what was like the worst scene that you ever had to work through? Whether a traffic accident or a domestic call or a disturbance or whatever. What is the hardest one that you walked in on, a crime scene, so to speak, that you had to process?
Well, there's been many of those. That actual traffic crash that we were just talking about, the lady lost her life there. That was a terrible traffic crash that was there. There's just been many scenes that people don't understand that we go to on a day-to-day basis and see and have to encounter the certain things like that. And but to sit here and just pinpoint one, it's hard to say because I've seen some really bad things. The ones that really bother you the most, I would say when it involves children. Yeah. Those are the ones that really, really hurt you and stick with you when there's something, when it's dealing with children. Those are the ones that are the toughest for me. And talking to the people that you work with, that's usually the ones that stick with you the most. If it's something involving a child, and I've seen some terrible incidents, traffic crashes with children, and just different things with children. And those are the ones that affect you the most.
So how have you? I mean, I know what they say, the debriefing and all of that. How did and how does Scotty Rhoden go to a scene like that and come home and be able to, I don't know the word, be normal, process it? Like people, I think law enforcement's like superhuman, and it doesn't stick. Mm-hmm. Like they didn't go to any scene and deal with any story and then just go home and they're fine and watch a movie and marriage is fine, being a dad's fine, going fishing. Nah, we just saw this person get killed. Mm-hmm. We just saw this person get beat to death. All the stuff. How have you learned when you began in law enforcement versus where you are now? How do you process those bad calls, those really tough ones? How do you deal with it? How does it not make you bitter? How does it not mess with your mind and keep you up at night and make you not able to eat or sleep? Or how does it not affect your marriage and your ability to be a dad? Like, how have you learned to do it? What do you do?
Well, there's ones that really stick with you for a while, and you go back to your question earlier. I was involved in a shooting at one time, and that one probably bothers me more than anything. I still replay that. It comes back in times, and that was probably my toughest one that I deal with. But I've always said this: I never bring the job home. Once I get off duty, I try to keep it away from my family. Those are separations for me.
Yeah.
I don't bring things to the house. I don't just try to discuss what happens at work. Yeah. I try to be a dad and I try to be a husband. And if I bring those things home, then I don't feel like I'm doing my job as a father or as a husband, because those are things that I encounter that nobody else should have to deal with or to live with. Right. And I try to deal with them in my own way. I do the best I can with them. They are tough. Some of them are tough, and but I've been fortunate enough to where I have been able to cope with it and try not to bring my family involved in those things that I do deal with.
Which is tough, and I'm sure it's very difficult to keep that.
Oh yeah.
And so, and you mentioned your family. So you come to patrol lieutenant, and at this point, obviously, you and Tara are now together.
Yes.
You're married, and how did you and Tara meet? What's that story?
Well, she was actually my neighbor.
Did she have a cat stuck up in the tree?
No,
you just was a good policeman?
Just a good Samaritan that day, I reckon. She was my neighbor, and I tell you, the Lord has really blessed me with a good wife, and I'm so thankful for that. And she has been the rock that keeps us together. She's a strong woman that I'm just telling you, I'm just so thankful that the Lord put her in my life. And we've been together this year 25 years.
Wow, congratulations. That's
we celebrated our 25-year anniversary going through an election. So, I told her, I said, if we can survive this, I see 25 more years in our future. So
25 more years as sheriff.
Oh, no, I don't know, Dan. I don't know if she'll hold up for that.
So when did your anniversary's already passed?
Yes, yes.
So you're at 25, so now you're launching into 26.
26, that's right.
So she's your neighbor, and you pull in your driveway and you like flip your lights, like, hey.
I tried to do whatever I could to grab her attention, Dan, I guess.
And so then you go on your first date.
Yes.
And what is she thinking, I'm wondering, because I'm dating a deputy sheriff at, what is this?
I really don't know what she was probably thinking at the time. I do remember our first date. We went out to eat, and we came back from town, and I dropped her off at her house. And as soon as we pulled in the driveway, I don't really think she said bye, but it was hop out and be gone. I think she was scared that I was going to try to kiss her or something. Then I guess she hopped out and she just ran off.
Unbelievable. But so, she's your neighbor.
She was my neighbor. Yes.
So she jumped out. So that probably she's like, oh man, I don't know if he's interested in me now or not. So I'm just going to get out of here.
I don't know if it was I was interested or she was scared I was going to try to give her a kiss. Good night, I guess. I don't know. But I was persistent, and I chased after her, and I stuck in there, and it's worked out, and it's been the best. We've been actually together 27. We dated 2 years before we got married, so probably the best 27 years of my life, to be honest with you.
So then you proposed to her after a couple of years. Right?
Yes, I did.
So how did you propose? Because everyone wants to know. Are you a romantic, or did you just kind of throw a ring at her and say, "Hey, you want to do this? Let's go get married"?
I was just so excited and nervous that hoping that she would say yes. So we really got a bunch of friends together. I had my friends work, try to get people together and try to be nonchalant as we can, but without saying, something's fixing to happen, So we went out to eat at a restaurant, and there was a bunch of us there, a bunch of her friends and my friends. And we had got with the waiter and tried to get the waiter involved, and he did, and he was a good sport, and he was trying to hit on her while I was there, and one of those deals. And I kind of stepped up.
Involved to help do. You're trying to propose, and he's hitting up.
Yeah, so I kind of bumped him out of the way, and I said, "Hey, this is where I need. This is where I need to step in." Right. And then I got down on one knee and had the ring and asked her, and she said yes, and it's been wonderful ever since.
And you have 3 kids.
Yes.
And your youngest is your son, who is going to be a junior this
Sophomore.
Sophomore.
He's going into a sophomore year.
And your middle daughter is already graduated high school.
She graduated high school, went to Indian River College to play softball, and she is graduating now. She actually has her teaching degree, and she works for her mother at the Baker County Christian Co-op.
What was that? I didn't know that. Good for her. Mm-hmm. And then your oldest is also graduated.
Yep. Very successful real estate, works in real estate. She just started working at the Isaiah House, and she loves it, and just hard working. We're very blessed with the kids that we have, and they have a good work ethic. And
well, it's obvious where that came from. Came from great parents, for sure.
Come from their mom. How about that?
So I'm looking at the story of you come through all of these things in law enforcement, and you've climbed all of these ranks, and each rank isn't a sit down and rest and say, well, look at what I've accomplished, because every promotion has brought more responsibility, more time, more weight, more burden, more everything. And you just kept going, and you kept going, and you kept going. And then it introduces how our paths intersect in 2016. And in 2016, I had called and I said, hey, I'm inviting all of the guys running for sheriff, and we want to have them at this service that we're having at our church. Mm-hmm. And we'd like for you to be a part of it. And so the 3 guys came. You and I had a conversation before or after the service, and you told me a little bit of how you came to run for sheriff, and what it cost you and what it was going to require of you. And do you want to get into any of that
I'm fine.
that we had?
Whatever you want to get into. That's what we're here for.
So I remember you saying that you felt God inspired you, and let's pause right there for 1 second and say, you are a devout, born-again believer.
Absolutely.
And, you attend a church here in town. You've been involved your whole life, I presume, in church. So I know faith is really important to you.
Absolutely.
And I know it's really important to your wife and to your children. And so you get to 2016, and you say, we prayed about it and felt like the Lord wanted us to do this. And you said to me, I remember that day, something about you had mortgaged your home or did something like that with your finances to consolidate all your money so that you could fund this campaign.
That's right.
And you said, I said, so what if what if you don't get elected? And you're like, well, it's God's problem. He's the one that told us to do it.
That's right.
What was that process like when you came to say, I'm going to run for sheriff, this is what I feel God's saying? And how did your wife react to that? And how did that all work? Because it didn't happen in 2016. I mean, you had to be prepared. Probably 2015 is probably when you, I would think, or did you just do it starting in 16?
It was more in 2016. If you go back to what we taught, I always told my classmates and everything that I wanted to be sheriff, and when you become a deputy, your ultimate goal mine has always been, whatever I start, I want to go to the top,
Yeah.
And I want to be the best. I want to go to the next level and be the best that I can be. And I always said I wanted to be sheriff, and I always wanted to be sheriff. And but when I got married, that changed for me. I wanted to be a husband, and I wanted to be a father.
Yeah.
And I kind of got away of saying, hey, I'm going to be the sheriff. I'm going to be the sheriff. It didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
I had other things, and I think that's from being married and being a father.
So I said, it's good you got all that other stuff.
Yeah, so I wanted to be a husband and a good dad. And in 2016, there was just something that came over me, and I felt the calling to do that. I'll be honest with you. I remember talking to my preacher. We were standing. I take you to the exact place where we were standing. We were standing in my driveway off of a house that I used to live in, and we were standing there. And I told him first, and I said, "Hey, I feel like that I'm being called to do this." And I said, "I just need some advice. I need something."
Yeah.
I just feel the urge and something that's pressing me to do this. And I remember his advice was, he said, you pray about it and you fast about it, and the Lord will lead you in the way that you need to go. And I did those things, and I said, I feel that that's what I need to do. And it was a scary time, I'll be honest with you. We had bought 10 acres of land over in it's in the gated community off Odeshar Road, and that was going to be our land that we built our forever home, and that's where we were going to stay. It was 10 acres. It was nice, and it was just fortunate that was paid for, at that point in time in my life. And like I said, we were going to keep it. That was going to be our forever. But I knew that I probably couldn't stay in the position and continue to have a check and stuff, and I needed to support my family. That was my main thing. I said, if I'm going to do this and follow what I think I need to do, how am I going to be the father and be the husband, to be the sole provider to help with my family?
Yeah.
So we began to get things in line. I had 25 years. I knew I'm too young to retire. I can't quit. I had to do something and go back to work if I wasn't successful. Your mind starts thinking of different things, and I think that's where the devil comes in and tries to throw doubt at you, and not to listen to what you're being called to do. But it was scary. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I wasn't scared, because I was. So once I made the decision to do it, my wife was very supportive. And if she wouldn't have been supportive, I probably would not have been. But she knew at that point in time, whenever we had to sit down and we talked about it, she knew it was the right thing to do. And I'm so thankful that she was supportive of it. And because this you can't do without support system from your family.
That's right.
You just can't do it. It's not going. You can try it, but it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I went to a realtor, and I told him, I said, I want to sell these 10 acres that I got over here. I said, I'm trying to find a way that I'm going to have to leave my job, and I need to make sure that I have things in line, that if things don't work out, I need to be able to move forward, and financially is one of them. That was my biggest concern, because it goes back to family to me. I want to be that provider that they don't have to go without because of the decisions I made.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I will never forget it. I had a price of what I wanted to pay, what I wanted to get. I will never forget what she said. She said, "You won't ever get that." She said, "But we'll put it up." I said, "Well, no, that's what I need." I said, "You don't understand. I need that." I said, I'm not going to take less than that." Probably within 2 weeks, a friend of mine was looking for land. Within that 2 to 4 week period, the land sold for what I needed it for, and it just all fell into place.
Wow.
So that showed me that God was involved in what was going on in my life at that time.
Yeah.
And I'll just be honest with you. I used it as when we made this decision, I just basically, we pushed all in. We were all in. We were going, we were running, and we were saying, whatever we have, if we were successful, we're going to continue to work hard for Baker County. If we're not successful, God's got a plan for me and my family, and we're going to move on with that plan. Mm-hmm. And I've lived by that since I was elected in 2016, and I still live by that today. And I tell people today, I'm proud of the job we've done for the last 7.5 years, and we're going to work hard to stay here. But if it's not in the plan that God has for us, He's going to remove me from this office, and He's going to open more doors for me, and He's going to open more doors for my family, and we're going to continue to live, and we're going to continue to support Baker County. I'm not leaving Baker County.
Yeah.
And but 2016 was very, very scary for me, because I put it all on the line.
Yeah.
But I felt confident when I done it, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I felt like I had listened to the advice of people that I knew had the best interest for me. And when I went to my preacher and he told me to do certain, and I did them, and it just felt right.
Yeah.
It was tough. Now, don't get me wrong. There were some sleepless nights and some worrisome nights, and figuring about, if it doesn't go right, how's this going to affect us? Your mind starts playing, and I think that's the devil playing tricks in your mind. And we tried to stay focused and try to do what we had to do to be successful, and we did that. And I'm grateful that Baker County people voted for me and had the confidence in me to do the job. And I hope that they're still confident in what we're doing. And I feel good about where we stand right now.
Yeah. So the question that kind of pops in my head when I think of running for any office. When you get into politics, I just can't help but think about the what happens for the guys that don't win, and how they have to process. Man, does no one like me? Is they mad at me, or they don't care about me, or I guess I'm not much. I'm not something that they are concerned about. Mm-hmm. But then I think about the guy that wins, and I think, it's not much different than, to use a football analogy, winning the Super Bowl and celebrating, we won the Super Bowl tonight, but tomorrow we got to go back to work.
That's right.
Because there's an election coming in 4 years. Mm-hmm. And so not only do you have that, which is why I love talking about what led you to all these ranks, you've learned, you can have this goal out here. This is where we're going to be in 4 years, and we'll come back and we'll have an election in 4 years. But between now and then, these are the things I got to do. I got to go to work.
Right.
I got to pull up my boots and I'm going to work. And all that stuff, yeah, I still got to worry about it and focus on it. Not everybody can do that. Like, not everybody can lead and see things 5 years out and still be able to be highly effective today. That's what one of the things that separates you as sheriff is your ability, and you've modeled this just from what we've talked about, looked at your record. What you've modeled is your ability to say, every time I've climbed up, right, I've been successful because God's given me the ability to do it. And I go back to 2016 when we met. You told me that story, and I thought, this guy is either really saved or really crazy. That was my thought. Because you quit, right, the sheriff's office.
I had to I asked for a leave of absence, and they wouldn't grant it to me, so I basically resigned.
Which is the nature of politics.
That's right.
And so you're like all in. Not like Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, saying he's all in and not doing anything. You're all in.
No, I'm all in.
You're selling property. You're resigning position. It's all or nothing.
Right.
And you shoved everything in, and I think the people in the community realize this guy's a little bit different than what maybe we've had in the past, or this guy's just a different kind of leader who's putting himself out like that. So you win this election in 2016, you get to 2020, and in that first 4 years you deal with some murder things that occur, some things that are just crazy, not normal things, but you handle it very well, and you navigate it as best anybody can navigate it. You get to 2020 and you're unopposed.
That's right.
So the people of Baker County said to you in the first 4 years, there ain't no reason to have anybody run because this guy's really on he's got this thing moving. From 2020 to 2024, which is where we're at now, the election's coming up August the 20th, what you've seen over the last 4 years, again, just stuff, just unusual, I should say, stuff for Baker County, just because there's more people coming here. So my question is, you started back in 92, and now fast forward to 2024, how much has Baker County changed? Like, I just noticed with my wife, we were driving down the road the other day, and I'm like, I'm what I've always called myself a metrosexual. I've always wanted to be in the city. I'm a city guy.
Right.
And I've lived in New York City, just outside New York City. I've lived in West Palm Beach, and big populations and stuff going on. And then we come to Glen St. Mary, and I'm like, yeah, this is so different. And it took a little while to understand and appreciate the beauty of Baker County, because Baker County is a very unique place.
It is.
I've lived in a lot of places. It's very unique, and we love Baker County. We love living here, love everything about it. But we've noticed when we moved here almost 12 years ago versus now, there's a lot more traffic.
Yep.
There's a lot more, shall we say, dumb that happens, right? And you're seeing a lot more drug arrests. You're seeing a lot more accidents. You're seeing a lot more stuff because a lot more people are coming, and not all of them are, shall we call them, law-abiding, productive citizens, but yet, that's some of what happens in the county. So how different is it from when you started as a deputy to today as the sheriff? How different does our county look from your perspective?
Oh, well, if you go back to what we talked about earlier, when I first started, I said, when you rode down the road, you could wave because you knew who it was. You were passing people that you knew. That's old so-and-so, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so's family. It's not like that anymore. We pass people because we're growing. People are coming in.
Yeah.
But whenever we did win in 16, I tell you, and we did go unopposed in 24, that's nothing that it's nothing that I done personally. We have built a team of people that I'm very proud of to do the job to help Baker County and for us to be successful. And I just happen to be the sheriff of those people and I want to give them everything they need to do their job, to be prepared to do their job, because if I'm not preparing them or giving them what they need, then they can't be successful. So I want to say that first and foremost is that I'm proud of the people that work at the Baker County Sheriff's Office for the job that they've done for the past 7.5 years. Not what I've done, but for what they've done. And we couldn't be successful without them. I do want to say that first and foremost. But the growth here in Baker County, it's coming, and it's going to get more. In the next, I've always told my wife, I said, probably 5 to 10 years now, you're not going to recognize Baker County. It's not going to be little old Baker County anymore. And that's the unfortunate part, because the selfish part of me wants to say, I want to stay little and stay small and be done. Really, that's the selfish part of me. But that's not going to happen. Right. So how are we preparing ourselves for it? And that's whenever we work with our county commissioners, our city commissioners, and we all get on the same platform and the same thing and say, what are we doing? What is our plan to move forward? What's our 5-year plan? What's our 10-year plan? Because you're going to see changes coming. And law enforcement, people want to move to a community that's safe. And I think that's why you're seeing growth in Baker County the way you are. I believe people in Baker County feel safe. And I believe that's from the job that the employees at the Baker County Sheriff's Office are doing. And we're doing a good job to keep people safe in our county. Are we going to have problems? More people, you just said it. The more people that come, the more crime you're going to see. The more people that come, the more accidents you're going to see. So we're preparing ourselves to be ready for that, and just continue to keep doing the job that we've been doing for this past 7 years. I'm supporting what they're doing because they're doing the right. I always tell them in a meeting, this is what I said, always do the right thing because we can defend the right thing. Right. Always treat people how you want to be treated, and those incidents will turn out good for you. And that's just how I feel. I feel.
And it works that way, doesn't it?
It does work. I mean, I don't have to change the right thing, because that story's wrote itself. It's never going to change. I'm always going to be able to come in here and say, no, this is what I told you because this is the truth, and we've done the right thing. And that's never going to change. I don't have to guess, what did I tell Dan last week when he came in and seen me? Because no, it's never going to change, because the truth is the truth, and the right thing is the right thing.
So what would you say is the biggest change in Baker County from when you started as a patrol deputy to now a sheriff? Just what you observe in the community. What's some of the things that are just completely different? I mean, obviously the traffic. I mean, there are times now. I mean, it used to be I would look down the road after 9 o'clock at night, and there wouldn't be any headlights in either direction. 9, 10 o'clock at night. Now,
all hours of the night is going. Traffic is probably one of our biggest complaints that we have at the sheriff's office right now. It is probably one of the biggest. Speeding is a big issue that we have. You got to figure, we got 6 deputies to patrol 589 square miles. And I don't think people really know how big of the land that we cover with 6 people. We've worked with our commissioners, and they've been very good to us in trying to increase. They know the needs that we need. We've increased the number of deputies since I've been here. We receive the complaints. The deputy gets it. We email every deputy that's on to whatever area it's at. But what people don't understand is this: if they're in certain zones, and say Dan has a problem on US 90 in front of the church, we got speeders all the time. Well, those emails go out as a complaint to the deputies, and if you're in that zone, they try to get here. But if they get here and they get set up, say, all right, I'm gonna work some traffic here because Dan says it's real bad here. Well, by the time he gets set up and a call comes in for his zone, he has to turn around and leave, because the calls are the priority. Because the calls for service is what we have to respond to. What we have been doing, I hope to see more of this, because if it does, then we'll see a difference. But funding comes in to play.
Yeah.
We've applied for a few grants that we've been successful in getting. So, and those are specifically related to traffic, which is the biggest issue we're facing right now. That, to my opinion, traffic is our biggest issue that we're facing on the law enforcement side. So those monies go to each deputy that wants to sign up for overtime. So they're not assigned to any specific zone or anywhere else. They're assigned to specific areas, and they're being paid for by grant monies. So we're able to see, and we're writing more citations. We're trying to educate people on more. We did the Slow Your Roll campaign, which we are educating people.
And that started last year?
Yes,
right?
yes.
At school time, I thought that was brilliant, by the way, whoever put that
So
together.
we're just trying to educate people on how to drive, what to do, and we've started that now. So if I stopped, say I'm out there working and I stopped Dan today for speed.
But you wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that, but I try not to.
Because I wouldn't be speeding. I would be under the speed.
But that deputy encounters Dan today, say Tuesday.
Yeah.
And Dan's running 67 in a 45. Well, he writes him a warning for Dan and says, Dan, you need to slow down and whatever. So next Tuesday, there's a different deputy on duty.
Right.
Dan gets stopped again in the same place, running 70 this time. Well, that deputy's going to be able to pull up that information through his system and say, okay, well, last week, Deputy Rhoden stopped Dan for running 67 and gave him a warning.
You ain't getting one this
Well,
week.
Dan got stopped in the same spot running 70. He didn't understand the education.
Right.
So it's the discretion of the officer at that time.
Right.
Does he write him a ticket or does he give him another warning? I've never told a deputy to write a ticket or not to write a ticket.
Yeah.
I hire them to do a job, and I give them the discretion to where they need to write the tickets and do their job.
Yeah.
So that with that system in play, it seems to be working some. Is it a perfect system? No. But with more growth coming, you're going to see more traffic problems. That's just the way it's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're just trying to prepare ourselves for it to come in. But we're implementing things to be able to be out there to try to resolve that problem.
Yeah. And just for disclaimer, for Life Uncensored, I have never been pulled over.
That was just, I was just using that as a
67 in a 45. Nor have I ever been pulled over doing 70 in a 45. Notice, Sheriff, I didn't say I hadn't done it.
That's right. You just ain't never been called about it. That's right. I got you.
No, I get that. I get that because I came, like I said, we lived in, the bustling Long Island, just outside Times Square, New York City life, and that traffic's ridiculous.
Right.
And then lived in South Florida, West Palm Beach area, and that traffic is ridiculous. And one of the things we said, well, we can deal with the less activity options of a smaller town because of the trade-off you get with not dealing with that traffic.
Right.
We're driving somewhere the other day, and I'm like, man, trade-off isn't working anymore. this thing's, now we're getting traffic jams, literally traffic jams. That's right. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't foresee this coming. I really did. I thought Baker County was a great gem. It was hidden pretty well. And
I think people's discovering the gym. That's why we're getting them fucks with people.
And I will say how grateful I am to have a sheriff who knows what's going on in the community. You know what's going on. You're at all these events. You're people in the hospital. You're going and seeing them in the hospital, almost like a pastor role, dealing with things going on in the school system. You're doing all of this. So, what is the one? Like, if you could give me an average day, tell Life Uncensored what an average day as the sheriff of Baker County. What does it look like? Like, what is your morning routine? What time do you get up? Do you and your wife get up at the same time? Do you have breakfast together? I mean, she's running a school. Like, what do your schedules look like? And then when you get to the sheriff's office, what does that look like on an average day? What does an average Scotty Rhoden day as sheriff look like?
Well, there's it goes back to what I said earlier. In this profession, you never know what you're going to face on a day-to-day basis. I love in the morning time, I do try to get up, and what I enjoy the most in the morning is I try to drink a cup of coffee with my wife.
Yeah.
If we're able. You know, that's weekends we do. That's something that I really enjoy, and that's a set weekend for us.
Yeah.
Do we like to do it during the middle of the week? If we can, we love to do that also.
Yeah.
But when I get started, usually my phone's ringing. I get to the office, I have people waiting to see me. Like you said, I try to go see people in hospitals if they're injured or if loved ones are sick or something. I try to go see them. I try to attend every funeral I can for every Baker County person that I can go to. I just can't go to them all. I do a lot of those because I think that we should be there for those families during their time of loss.
Sure.
We continue to do the intersections for the family. That's out of respect. That's not anything we charge to do. That's something we should do.
Yeah.
And at that time, to show that family the respect that they deserve at the time of the losses for their loved ones.
Yeah.
So, and then you have the ones that are mad from the night before that they encountered a deputy and something didn't go their way.
Yeah.
So I have those calls that come in that I have to go. Sometimes I go see them. Sometimes I can talk to them on the phone.
Like you're like literally officer, hypothetical story, officer, deputy pulls over somebody and they felt like he was too aggressive, he was too rude, he was too whatever. So instead of just taking a ticket or taking the thing, they're calling you.
Yes.
And they're saying, hey, deputy so-and-so was mean to me. And you, with a straight face, respond kindly. Tell me how that works.
Yeah.
I want to know how you're even able to do something like that.
I always listen to what their complaints are. I never jump to a conclusion. I always tell them, well, let me get with the officer and let me see what his side is. There's always two sides to a story. I don't care what nobody says. There's always two sides to it. Excuse me. But I tell you what has reduced that, because I was getting them pretty often. We went to body-worn cameras now. Every encounter that you have with a deputy sheriff now should be on that body-worn camera.
Wow.
And now what I tell them is I will pull the body cam footage. I will review how that deputy treated you and how you treated that deputy, and I'll call you back. Some of them go, never mind. Never mind. I don't need you to call me back, or I need you to look at the footage.
Yeah.
So it's reduced a lot of our complaints on how people are being treated.
I would bet.
But it shows that if somebody is being mistreated and we're not doing what we're supposed to do, we're able to correct that action, and we're able to say, hey, this is not something that we're going to tolerate at the Baker County Sheriff's Office. And
I was going to say, what an awesome thing it is for you as the leader to not be listening to this side or that side. You're watching it.
Yeah.
And you can see.
You can make
I know you well enough to know that if there was something you saw, you don't have no problem pulling that deputy in and saying, hey, what you did, you didn't follow procedure here.
Yeah, we're going to correct it.
Yeah.
We're going to correct it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we should be doing.
Yeah. And you do that very well. And because that goes back to what you said about let's just do what's right.
That's right.
And tell the truth. Because if you're doing what's right and you're telling the truth, all this other stuff works out. Let me come back to one thing that we went past too quick. I didn't forget, or I forgot to mention. So there's you have one brother, one sister. And your brother and your sister live here in Baker County.
Yes.
And your brother also works at the sheriff's office.
Yes.
The younger brother, older brother?
He's the older brother.
How weird is that? The younger brother is the boss.
The boss of the older brother, yeah.
You gotta love that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I would use that to my advantage. Trust me. With my brother, I remind him all the time. I often say, I'm the sheriff of this town. So when we start doing this podcast today, I said, I can't say that anymore when you're around. So, but I would be saying that to my brother all the time. I'm the sheriff of this town.
That's right.
My brother died in 1998, and I know there's a special bond to a brother. And so I know it's got to be pretty awesome to have him not just live in your area, but work at your office. I mean, how cool is that? to have a brother that you get to work with.
Right.
You probably don't get to see every day and hang out with every day, because I understand how the work thing goes, but still, being working at the same place, isn't that kind of neat?
It is, and like you said, I don't see him on a day-to-day basis, but I started my career a lot earlier than he did. He come in under the previous sheriff, and he hired him, and he's been here 25 years, I think. He's been close to. He's
Wow.
getting close. He's getting up there, but he's a lieutenant. The unfortunate part for him is, excuse me, is that
He can't run for sheriff.
well, he can't. He can, but he might get beat.
Oh, what a story would that be?
Yeah, wouldn't that be a good one? But when I did decide to run for sheriff, it kind of puts him at a little bit of a disadvantage too, because of the nepotism laws and stuff that happen. I can't promote him. He can't be promoted in any nature. He can't receive any raises to anybody unless it's that position and you're giving them across the board. So
Wow.
he is really handcuffed in ways that other people aren't, that really they don't understand it.
Wow.
Him being my brother and me being the sheriff, really, it kind of hurts him in a way as far as promotional things come.
Right.
Because by law, I'm not allowed to
Wow. I didn't know
to
that.
give him any promotions.
Wow. And that ain't right, from my perspective.
But my sister, she's retired school teacher. She was a school teacher in the school system. I got a great sister. I love her to death. She loves us.
Yeah.
And
But he's
you
got
talking
a
about
very tight-knit family.
and her claws will come out if you start messing with her brothers. I can tell you.
So is she older or younger than you?
She's the middle child. I'm the youngest. I'm the baby, I guess is what you call it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, and I can see the strong connection. Your family's very strong.
we are.
And your family with your wife, your kids, I can see how strong that is. And then the faith that runs right in the center of all of it that makes all of this work. So then that brings us into, we're recording this prior to the election, but the election is on the 20th of August, 2024. And I am praying that God give you great favor and great success, because I believe your resume lays out perfectly what you want a sheriff to be. Someone who knows exactly what's going on, not just in law enforcement, but law enforcement in this county. And not just generically knowing it or hearing it secondhand or having an idea of what might be going on, but literally someone who's lived their entire life, seen it all, and really loves this place. This isn't a stepping stone to you. This is
home.
Yeah, this is home and protecting the home. So as we're heading into the election, what are your thoughts about the election? How do you think the election has gone, and the process of it, I should say? There's been a lot of work involved here. It's taken a little bit of time for us to set up our meeting to get the podcast recorded, because you've been exceptionally busy.
Yes.
And you were willing to take some time out of your day today to lay this down. I really, really do appreciate that. But I know you've been really busy, and early voting going on, and being out there involved in that, and campaigning, and the pizza and politics thing, and the meet the candidates thing. Anything that's happened up to this point that's been surprising to you, or different from 2016 or 2020, and just what's your overall feel of this campaign and how it's gone? Because we're at the finish line now.
Yeah, we're here. We're close. I tell you, this has been different for me, because in 2016 when I ran, I was focused on being the candidate, and running for the office, and that was my whole mindset at that point in time. I didn't have anything else to worry with. I lost my job, so I was focused on being the candidate. And then once we were elected in 2017, I took office, and then in 2020, I was blessed not to have an opponent, so we kind of just kept going and doing our own thing and working hard for Baker County to keep us safe. And this time we got an opponent. So it's been an adjustment for me. I'll just be honest. It's been a real adjustment, because you still have to be the sheriff.
Right.
You still have to run the county. You still have to make sure the agency's on track and doing what we're supposed to do. But that goes back to having people in the right places also to help you and having great employees. And I'm telling you, we have some of the greatest employees that any agency could ever ask for. And that's why we're successful. And that makes it a lot easier at times whenever I need to be doing something else. I have the confidence that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But this is a different environment for me because of being the sheriff and being a candidate on the ballot to be reelected.
Yeah.
So it is a lot tougher because my job comes first, the candidate comes second.
Right.
And then I say that to go, well, if I don't make the candidate first, then I may not have the job. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of, but I always put the job first in helping people.
Yeah.
And I want to. I feel like it's hindered me in some ways because I am so busy trying to be the candidate, but I tried my hardest to do everything I can to still be able there to be for people, to be there for people, to help people, and to run the agency.
Yeah.
And so there is a difference there. And I'll be glad when next Tuesday gets here to get over and for us to get back to normal and to be able to be 100% doing what we're supposed to be doing, and that's helping people.
Yeah, and I will say this, just because it's apparent to me. You have the endorsement of, did I see Governor DeSantis?
Yes.
Gave you his endorsement, and the sheriff in Duval County.
Yes.
What's his name?
TK Waters.
Sheriff Waters gave you his endorsement. And to me, as just an average Joe, not in politics, I'm not running for office, I'm just here observing, trying to discern who I'm voting for. And I looked at your opponent coming from outside the area, coming from Jacksonville, works at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. And the sheriff of that Duval County Sheriff said, Scotty Rhoden has my endorsement to be sheriff of Baker County. To me, that says a lot. If this guy is an employee, your opponent is an employee of that sheriff, you would think he would want to endorse his guy, right? He's worked with this guy, he knows this guy, but he knows you.
Right.
And he's been in circles with you. He knows what caliber you are. And the sheriff of Duval County, which is the largest county, isn't it like the largest county in the United States, at least landmass? And he said, Scotty Rhoden's the guy. That's what he said. So he knows you and he knows your opponent. And he said, Scotty Rhoden's the guy. Governor DeSantis leads the state of Florida as governor, and he said Scotty Rhoden's the guy. I've seen several people post things on your re-election campaign, and they say Scotty Rhoden's the guy. I've talked to a lot of people, and they say Scotty Rhoden's the guy. So I'm gonna give you the last word on that. Tell people of Baker County. Might be your last time to tell them. Why is Scotty Rhoden the guy? Why is Governor DeSantis correct? Why is the sheriff of Duval County correct in his endorsement? Why are all these people that have endorsed you, why have they come to the conclusion that you're the guy?
Well, I'm grateful for all the endorsements I got. Sheriff Waters is a great man. He's a good sheriff. Governor DeSantis has backed me. I've also got other endorsements from the other surrounding sheriffs that I work with hand in hand and see them, and just got a great working relationship with them. I'm honored to have their support and endorsement also. And the people in the community is the one that's important to me, because these are the people that see me on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I can pick up the phone and call any sheriff in the state of Florida. We have that connection and get help. They'll send every resource we got. But I don't see them on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
And those are the endorsements that are important to me, because those people see what you do day to day. They see the action that you take. They see how you treat people. They see how you love Baker County.
Yeah.
I am going to be here for Baker County. I'm not going anywhere. This is where I was born, where I was raised. My kids are going to be raising their kids here, my grandkids.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything I can to make Baker County a better place and a safer place. And I hope that that shows through my day-to-day actions, what I do every day as the sheriff of this county.
Oh, I believe that, yeah.
And if I'm not showing it, then I'm doing something wrong. And I go back to what I tell people: you treat people how you want to be treated. Situations turn out the way they should turn out.
Yeah.
Always do the right thing.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing is not always easy sometimes. You heard that
Yeah.
saying. And it's not, because
it's going to cost you sometimes.
It's going to cost you sometimes. And it may cost you a friendship, or it may cost you this, but you have to stand by what is right.
Right.
And that's what I stand with. I have to make tough decisions, and it affects people's livelihood. Sure. It affects their freedoms. But I can always say that I always stand by. I'm going to look at every situation through the lens and say, this is what I feel is the best decision, because this is what needs to be done, because this is the right thing to do.
Because it's right.
That's it. I always stand on doing what's right.
Yeah.
And being honest with people. If they come and see me, I don't want them to leave out of my office with a misperception of, hey, he's going to help me, he's going to take care of that. I'm not going to give them the political answer. I'm going to give them the honest answer to say, yes, I may be able to, or this is not going to go the way you think it's going to go. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you should treat people.
Yeah.
I'm not a politician.
Right.
I'm a person that cares for people, that wants to help people when I can. People, they misunderstand the position of sheriff. They think the sheriff has control to do anything he wants in a small county.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Right.
He still has to follow what the law says, and what the law allows him to do.
Right.
And I'm not going to violate that.
Right.
I'm going to stand to it. But again, I do want to help people. I think the sheriff's responsibility is to help people when he can.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continue to do that as long as I am the sheriff. But I'm going to do it in the right way.
Well, I can tell you that Life Uncensored has 100% backing of Sheriff Rhoden. And I've known you, I guess, I obviously didn't meet until 2016, but from that point to this, it's been a great 8-year friendship.
Absolutely.
And we've had great conversations, and every opportunity we get to spend time together, we do. Mm-hmm. And run into you at various places, funerals. I'm always surprised to see you at a funeral. And see you at restaurants, see you at stores, or wherever. I think you're doing a fantastic job. I think you
appreciate that.
Previous 8 years have been fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to the next 8 years being even better. And we had you out at the Freedom Celebration this year, and I guess we estimated 12 to 1,400 people came to that event. And you came up on the platform, did a great job. The people responded well to you. That's the kind of thing that matters. But I think people can see real, and people can see through fake. Mm-hmm. And we don't want fake. We want real.
That's right.
Scotty Rhoden is real. And Scotty Rhoden's going to be sheriff for many years to come. And it's been an honor to have you on our very first episode of Life Uncensored. So, anything you want to say in parting? You've given me and our audience a great deal of your time, right in the middle of an election. Speaks volumes of you. Appreciate your respect to come in and sacrifice some time. Anything else you want to say to our audience before we wrap this up?
I appreciate you inviting me to be here to be your first guest. It's an honor to do that, and I appreciate the friendship and the relationship that we've built over the past 8 years, and I look forward to continuing that. And I just want to work hard for Baker County people. That's just me. That's who I am, and I want to be people to have the confidence in me that things are going to be done the right way at the sheriff's office. And I want to continue to be the sheriff here. I love it. I still have the fire and the passion to do the job. And I tell my wife that all the time, because when I lose the passion and lose the desire, then it's time for me to walk away.
It's time to do something else.
I don't want to be the sheriff for a position. I want to make a difference. And if I'm not making a difference in people's lives, it's time to move on and give somebody else the opportunity to come in that has the passion and has the fire to make Baker County better.
Which isn't now, because you still have.
I still got it. I still got it.
And it ain't going nowhere.
No time soon.
I'm gonna let it stay there for about 12 more years. I don't know if your wife's gonna agree.
I think to say you and her may have to talk about that.
Well, thank you so much, Sheriff Rhoden, for being with us. It was a pleasure to sit with you for a few minutes. And episode 1 of Life Uncensored is now in the record books. We look forward to Life Uncensored episode 2. More details to follow. Thank you for being with us. Been my honor to host Sheriff Rhoden. Again, this is your host, Dan Sturgill. We look forward to having you next time on Life Uncensored.
Thank you for listening to Life Uncensored. Please make sure to follow us on social media and Spotify at Life Uncensored, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Life Uncensored Podcast. Tune in next episode to hear another guest, another story, another Life Uncensored.